Good morning. Come on in. Come on in. We're going to get started here in just a second. I want to make sure all my friends know that we're here. Get this out so people can start finding us. Here we go. Good morning, chain breakers. Sorry, guys. Good morning, carsmiths. So we're going to get started this morning. I got it out to a few. We'll finish it up here in just a second. But before we get started, so people buy cars from people they like. Start becoming a person they like. Hi, I am Brad Smith. I am the original car smith, and I am here today for our Saturday morning sales meeting. It is Saturday, January the 11th, 2020, and we're going to talk about how to start creating those people that like you so much, that are raving fans. They not only buy you, they start sending people in because they want the same experience that they had with you. How do you really become that? So if we're new into the car business, we need to understand there's a lot of things that many old timers will start teaching you. And here's kind of what I've been taught. And I'm going to tell you today, my friends, it's wrong. It's wrong. Now, some people are of the belief that you need to know everything about every car that you represent. And yes, you need to be able to answer questions on every car. You need to be the automotive expert. But what a lot of people will tell you is information overload. Give them every bit of information that they need. Give them every bit of information that they want. That's where you will lose people. You see, people that end up talking more than they listen, they will not sell cars. People that will listen and will answer questions will end up getting a lot closer to the sale. However, people that ask questions will create more raving fans, will create a more loyal clientele, will be more successful in the auto business than anybody else out there. Why? Because they get to know their customers and their customers get to know them. You see, one of the things that people like to talk about more than anything else in the world is themselves. And the more and more and more you can start asking questions about your customers, one, you will become better informed on how they're going to be able to use the car and how to be able to sell that car to them. But two, because you care by asking questions about them, and I'm not talking about superficial questions, we're going to get into that a little bit. I'm talking about asking questions that matter. Asking because you are truly involved with them and their lives. You truly want to know who they are. You truly want to serve their needs. You truly care. How do you truly show that you care? It's by asking questions. We have to become not the master of information and regurgitation of that information. No, we need to become the master at asking questions of our clients. You see, it's not only in the meet and greet, but it is in every step of the entire process while you're with your customer. You have to be willing to ask questions. It's those questions that make you seem empathetic to your client. It's those questions that make you seem like you really care to your client. And I'm not saying you don't and put on a false impression. I'm really encouraging you to care and engage and be empathetic, but it comes across to them through the use of questions. You see, most customers are going to walk on your lot already in a defensive posture. They only buy a new car every minimum really 3 years, usually 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, right? The average car is on the road for over 10 years now. So how is it when you do this every day, right? You sell cars, you're in that process every day. They're in it every 7 years. So they're already in a place where they're feeling uncomfortable. all of the negative connotations of the automobile business go with them when they come into the dealership. So they're already in a defensive posture. They're waiting for you to argue. They're waiting for you to push back. They're waiting for you to tell them no. They're waiting for you to tell them how they don't know what they're talking about, right? They're looking for somebody or something to press back against. But the more you stay away from that, the better you will be in engaging with your client. You see, we need to start asking them questions from the very start, welcoming them into the dealership, and rather than turning around and immediately asking what it is they're there for today and what it is that they're wanting to see, talk about more about who they are. Introduce yourself. Get to know them as friends. Get to know all the people in the family that came in with them. Are they parents? Do they have children? How old are their children? Who is the car for? Is it for him or for her? How is the car going to be used? Is it going to be by running kids around, running errands during the day, running to soccer or softball or baseball or football or hockey or field hockey or whatever the kids are participating in? Is it in running to school? Is it in shuttling all the other kids around? How many do they carry around with them? What kind of extra space do they use? Or is this car something that's used to go back and forth to work? What is it they're really looking for? You see, in a lot of cases, buying motives change based on our customers. Buying motives will change, and maybe they're looking for something truly different, right? So those types of questions will lead you closer to the sale when you know who they are and what they do. You see, it's not only in who their children are, how many they have, but if the car is for somebody that's going to run the kids around, if you spend a lot of time talking about the fact that we need room for all of the kids and all of the kids we run around with, what are those activities? What are the kids involved with? Who do they play for? You see, the more in detail we ask, if we stay on the superficial and it's how old are your children, how many do you have, right? No, get into what sports are you involved in? What do they like to play? What teams do they like to play for? Where do they play at? How far is it you have to go? When the kids are with you, where do you go play? Are they on travel teams or are they on local teams? You see, the more we're involved in this, the more information we have, the more room you need for all the sports gear and everything else. Are you carpooling? Are there other kids riding with you? Those are questions that start coming up because it's the way they think and the way they use the vehicle. But if you don't know those answers, the only way you're going to get it is asking questions. You see, it's not necessarily in the vehicle they own now. It's not necessarily in what they do or do not like, although those are important questions to ask, what they do or do not like about their current vehicle, what it is they want to accomplish. But my friends, things are today, they are different than they were 10 years ago. You also cannot assume that everybody that walks on the lot is in the same place in the purchasing process that they were a few years ago. You see, everybody that walked on the lot 10 years ago was all in the information gathering business. But today, thanks to the internet, a lot of that process has already been done. They're not looking for you to be the encyclopedia of all things automotive, because in a lot of cases, they already know more about the car than you do. They've already done that investigation. They've already done that research. They already know. In many cases, they may already know what car it is that they like. But for you to know how they use it, what you may find is in some cases they're working with false perceptions. You see, they only know what they were told. What they don't know is they think that the only way to find certain options was with certain trim levels, or maybe with certain packages. But those packages might be available on lots of different cars. You may find that the consumer might be willing to make a slight compromise on something in order to save significant money. You can be the real true consultant when you find out what's truly important to them. But what's more important to them is not to have to start all over. You see, the 3-4 hour process on the car lot is no longer necessary. If the customer has already done a lot of research, you can start by knowing where they are. Now, how do you find that out? It's a real easy question. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, a lot of my customers today have already done a lot of research on the internet. They've already done a lot of investigation, and it helps me to help you know, one, what work have you already done? What research have you already done? And what are your goals today? What can I best help you with? And regardless of what that answer is, it's fantastic. In a lot of cases, they may tell you that they have no intention of buying a car today. Well, rather than just sit there and go and argue with them or try to move around it, that's fantastic, Mr. Customer. That takes a lot of pressure off of me. Let's use this today as an information gathering day where we can talk about the car, we can talk about it, and you can make a fully informed decision when you're ready. Does that sound fair? Takes the pressure off of you, takes the pressure off of them, and in many cases, what they may do is they may find they got all of their information answered. They got all the questions answered, and they end up buying a car today after all. But the only way you will do it is not allowing those walls to go up. Don't allow that defensive position to come into place. Take the time to ask the questions and find out where the customer is. You see, they may have already done the research on their trade. They may have already done the research on the car they want. They may have already done the research on all those types of things. Here's the question to ask. What interested you about that particular year, make, model, trim? Why were you necessarily interested in that, especially when it comes to a used car? Do you have this on the lot? I saw this car on the internet. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, that's great. I'll go see if I can find the keys, but let me ask you a question. What interested you in that vehicle? Maybe it was that they were just looking for a certain size SUV in a certain price range. But maybe you may know of a better buy, one with better miles, one with a better value, one where you might be able to solve a problem for them that they may not be familiar with because they didn't dig in through something enough. You are still the automotive answer person. You can still guide them to the right vehicle. You can still be the person that answers all of their questions. But you will find out more information about them by becoming a master at asking questions. You see, the more questions we ask, the more people think that you truly care. And the more people think that you truly care, the more you will engage with them, the more they will like you, and the more they will want to buy a car from you. My friends, becoming a master in those areas will absolutely help you in the long run. It will create a raving fan. And here's the nice part. When you know you're in those seasons, when you know you're in those sessions, when you know you're in those times of years that their kids are involved in stuff, when you're doing your long-term follow-up, asking how Johnny is in soccer, didn't his team just win last night? Having those kinds of conversations, not only while you're still engaged, but when you're doing your long-term follow-up on your customer, tells them you really know. I started in the car business when before computers, we were still dealing with index cards. And if somebody told me their dad was in the hospital, I wrote dad was in the hospital. Next time when I talk to him, how is your father? 3 months ago when we were talking, he was in the hospital. I'm hoping he's okay now. Did he get over that really well? The fact that you know and ask, the fact that you care will score huge points. Know their family, know their hobbies, know their children, know how they use their vehicles, know how they live their lifestyle. You will create raving fans for life. Hi, I'm Brad Smith. I'm your original car smith, and this has been your Saturday morning sales meeting. Thanks, my friends, and sell, sell, sell. Bye now.